The conversation I want to have is uh, it has a little bit. It has to do with kind of like how I grew up, but as it's not about me. It's about the 2A as a whole. Really, the reason I created Whammy was to bring all people together of all races, cultures, beliefs, and bring them together level-headed, right? Level-headed, and bring them together for one cause, the Second Amendment. And that way, everyone can see, know, and understand that we're all in this together. Our melanin has nothing to do with it. You know, that not saying that we don't get treated different or have in the past because of that. That's not what I'm talking about. It's we are Americans, and these amendments, the Constitution, um, is for all citizens of America. Period. So that is what it is, right? Now, I've had a lot, and I mean a lot of people say, man, before Whammy, I hadn't really ever seen black people that were into guns or knew about guns, right? And that sucks. But there's a reason for it. You know, things have changed now. Since 2016, you know, we've seen a boom in black gun ownership, and that's awesome. Um, but prior to that, I was a very rare person, right? And I amazed some people because I was born into the world of guns and born into it by well, I would say born into it by necessity, but it really I would have been born into it regardless what my father had been through or grandfather had been through. I would have been born into it regardless because they're hunters. So no matter what, I would have been born into guns. But the whole self defense thing probably would have been a little different. Probably have been a lot different, you know. But I came up as this little kid, this gun nerd, right? That that would look at my dad's shooter's Bibles and circle guns I buy when I grew up, and the best guns in the book, and et cetera, et cetera. And in the neighborhood I grew up with, so I grew up in Seattle, a major city, in the hood. Um, and all my buddies I grew up with, they remember me being the gun guy. Like I was always knew about guns and was teaching them about guns they never heard of. You know, when the only thing they heard in rap music was Tech Nine, Mac 10, I was talking about 30-06, right? 7 millimeter Magnum, um, 10 gauge, etc. Every New Year's Eve, a lot of my friends, sometimes my friends would come over because they knew we were going to shoot. They knew we had the biggest arsenal in the hood. So they'd come over to my house sometimes so they could shoot in the air. Back then, everyone shot in the air. Nobody had ever had a bullet fall on their head. Like it was just the normal thing back then. Um, but I was rare is my thing. Like no other black person I knew went hunting in Seattle, right? And that's kind of my point in this is that a lot of people who They say I had never seen a black guy in the guns before Whammy. The reason why you haven't is because there really isn't a lot prior to 2016. There really wasn't a lot in the big cities, but where it is normal, very, very, very normal, where all the black people have guns and go hunting, is in the deep south. In the deep south, back country Arkansas, back country Alabama, Mississippi, Missouri, etc. That's where it was normal. Georgia, that's where it was normal. But the reason why you didn't see it is because it's they're in these predominantly black neighborhoods, right? Where like four cities or somewhat small towns are just all black people, where it's weird to see a white person. Like when I went down to Arkansas for the first time, I had a culture shock. Like, I'm from Seattle, so you see everything, like every type of race. But when I went down to Arkansas, it was like, where's the Mexicans? Where's the Asians? It's all black, right? Like it's all black. And except for the police, like everything's black. And it would be like, and then every once in a while you would see a white person and be like, hey, there goes a white. Like that's really how predominantly black these areas are. And when you have those, and we're talking about the country, not no big city, we're talking about the back country. That's where it's at. Now, see, that's where my family came from, right? My dad came from Arkansas, came from Drew County. You can Google that. A place called Wilma, Arkansas. Population's only like 500. Okay, I think at its best the population was 1,400 or something like that. And in history, right, recorded history. And so in that area, you go down there like this last time we went down there, my dad wanted to come show off his rifles. We get down there to show off the rifles. No, like they're looking at my dad's rifles like, oh man, I need that. I need that. And they were looking at it like, not like, wow, I need a gun. They were looking at it like, wow, that's nicer than my rifle. I need to up my game. Because my dad always gets the best of everything he gets. But this is a place where when I go down to Arkansas, my dad says, hey, sis, I want some squirrel. And she'll call up, a guy down the street and say, hey, can you do me a favor and bring me over a few squirrel? Right? He goes out into the woods and shoots a few squirrel and bring them back, and my auntie cut them up, cook them up, handle business. Or call up the other guy, hey, you still got some deer over there? Yeah, I got some. Let me get some. I'll get you back. Hunting season is just a couple weeks away. I got you back. Right? My great uncle has some land down there, and my aunt and her husband went and built a deer stand on his land. He's got nice land. I'd say it's probably 3 acres, 3 to 5 acres. I'd say it is, and it's got a really big. It's got a huge pond. It's almost a lake, but it's man-made. They created this huge pond, and they got fish in there and everything, and they got 3 horses on the land. And every year, hogs and deer come up on that land because the land is huge and there's food there for them. And there's water for them to drink. That's normal down there, right? It's normal. Every year we go down there, this used to be the thing. Every year we go down there, for Juneteenth, right? For June dinner. Every time we go down there for that, they have, because they breed hogs in the back, right? Pigs in the back, and so for June dinner, they take out one of the hogs and they put a bullet in him, and then hang him upside down, gut him, the whole drill. That's normal down there, right? But nobody of any other race really seen much of that because it's in a predominantly black area and it's backcountry. So they had no business really being in that area. You know what I mean? Like, so they don't see it, they don't know. All right. Um, Now this is where my family comes from. So they come from that, but then they come up here to Seattle. At first they went to Longview, and my dad was the weird one. Like my dad was, they were, I mean, not too weird because there was a lot of country folk that came up to Longview back in the 70s. Um, and so there's a lot of them that knew all about that. My uncle Sambo and all of them, like hunting, it was normal. Black folk, that's what they did. That's what we did. Oh, everybody knew about, had guns, knew about guns. It was normal, and not no gangster shit. Really know their shit, right? And so my dad came up here from Arkansas. He had 6 hound dogs. Eventually, he started off, I think he had 3 hound dogs in the beginning. But he'd be walking down the street with these hound dogs, these coon hounds. And he'd be training them and shaking the tree and all that. And my mom's auntie was like, shut them dogs up. Because they were cityfied, they wasn't country. Uh, and then they lived in a perfect place to where when it was hunting season, they heading up in them hills, up in the woods, up at St. Helens, and they go hunting. Well, my family moved to Seattle, but we're like the only ones here. Like my grandpa, and then my dad and me, my mom, my brother. So we're really the only ones up here that came from that environment. And so that's what we do. We were born into this. Guns, hunting, self-defense, you name it. It's our heritage. It's in us. It's our blood. But when you come to a major city where people are cityfied, that doesn't exist. Black hunters and black people into guns and having multiple guns and really training and being accurate. And my family went out once a year, no matter what, to go target practicing. Get the whole family. I ain't talking about just the immediate family. Get the whole family. We go out to the woods. We go target practicing to make sure everybody's aim was straight. Right. That's what I started my first. I shot my first gun at 8 during one of those. Once my dad felt that he had got the uh, safety drilled into me well enough. So that's why you didn't see it, is because it was in an area where you wouldn't be to see it anyway. And it still exists. It's still down there. Like that's that normal, black folks with guns and hunting and all that. It's still down there in these, backcountry areas. Um, and there's thousands like that, right? That's why you see, what's his name, Killer Mike, who Coley on the War interviewed. He's from Georgia. His whole family was like that. His whole family was into hunting and farming and guns, and whole family, right? Because they from the back country. So that's why a lot of guys didn't see that. And the reason I made Whammy is because I know they exist, right? I know they exist, but a lot of people don't. And so I know that I'm rare in the city, but when I'm like, oh, this is the internet, so we can grab people from everywhere. And now what you're seeing is you're seeing those black folks that's where it's normal to them. And you see them here now in Whammy. right? And so, and now what also happens is, unfortunately, there was a lot of black people that grew up in these areas, and because they rarely seen white people and whatnot because of where they grew up, um, they had, especially if they're from down south, right? They have these preconceived thoughts that almost every white person they run into is going to be racist, right? And so me being well rounded in where I grew up and who I know, and Seattle did that big time for me. If I grew up in Arkansas in the back country in southern Arkansas, then I would probably be a lot like other people, close my not knowing, hearing all the stories, as you grow up and you just think that they're all bad. And on the flip side, you got a lot of white people that all they see is they hear about is the movies and gangs and stuff like that, and think that that's we're all bad. We think they're all bad. They think we're all bad, right? But I know because of my how I grew up that that's not reality. That's not reality. That's the fake, false, preconceived thoughts that are in people's minds. So creating Whammy brought hundreds of blacks who were, all in the guns, and hundreds of whites and Asians, and you name it, they're in Whammy. Okay, Samoans, keep on going. They're here, right? Middle Eastern, African, Russian, etc. It doesn't matter your anything. It doesn't matter your color, your sexual preference, and any of that. All right. There's Democrats, Republicans, Libertarians in here, and so what you're seeing is level-headed people that are maybe didn't know, but now they're like, oh man, he just like me. That's the white me. That's the black me. Right? And everyone is this is it's a family. It's a huge family. 1,500 deep. It's only growing because we always existed. We were always there. We were always good guys, and we were always in the guns, and we were never racist, and we were never gang members, and et cetera, et cetera. Okay? And that was the purpose of bringing Whammy together. If you're only seeing this on YouTube, please go on Facebook and type in Whammy, Whammy. Okay, type in Whammy and find us and join. Um, Sometimes you have to type in Whammys. I thought I fixed that. I'm not positive about that, so try both. Um, But if you're Whammy, you already know the deal. You're in Whammy, so you know the family love, the brotherly love. You know what it is. You know what it feels like. You know what we're about, and that is what America is. Whammy is what America is supposed to be everywhere, and that's what we're gonna keep pushing. We are we are the we are what it's supposed to be. So we're in a lot of we're the big brothers of this whole thing, of the two-way community. All right, we might be small, but we're the big brothers of this whole thing because we know what it's supposed to be, what it actually is. Right? That makes us really, really strong. It makes us really, really powerful, and we have a lot of influence. It's time to use that for the good. And those who are unconstitutional, those who are un-American, they got to deal with Whammy. No, you don't. You're not dealing with white people. No, you're not dealing with black people. You're not dealing with, you're not just dealing with Japanese. You're not just dealing with Koreans. You are dealing with America. Americans together. This is what they truly fear, is what Whammy is. They fear this because this is way too powerful. So we're gonna come at their un-American, unconstitutional ass, and we got to come with them with everything we got. Participate in the things that I'm asking help with, because we got to fight. Ground zero, you see it, it's Virginia. Hopefully, it doesn't go too far, but we don't know where it's going, and we got to buckle down. And we're the big brothers. We're the influencers. So let's get to work. Appreciate you listening to me, hearing me out, and I'll keep the content coming. All right. Well, man.